we're here in New York, and I know a lot of people, and one of your people over there, Cynthia Freeland, she loved what the Bills did, okay? I really believe she's a Bills fan. She claims she's not. She's a Lions fan, but I believe she's a Bills fan, okay? Everything that she said, she was very high on the Bills. What did you think about the Giants, first, second, and third round, and the Jets, and who out of those teams won this year's draft?
In the state of New York, I mean, I'm not trying to curry favor with you guys. Well, I guess that wouldn't be, because as long as you guys are men of justice,
yes,
you don't thumb your nose at the sports god who gave you two teams to choose from. They didn't give you two teams to root for in the New York metro area. Same thing in hockey and baseball and NBA. That people in LA get that sideways. People in Chicago do too. Bay Area, otherwise. The sports gods didn't give you the Giants and Jets so that you could be like, well, now we have two times the chance to win. No, you choose one, you hate the other. That's how it has to be. And you vex me if you say otherwise. I think the Giants had a completely boring but good draft. I think they did what they should have done, and went positions of need. And the Jets, again, CeeDee Lamb is intriguing, and I kind of think that would have been fun for them. And taking care of Sam Darnold is really important. And I will say, if you look at the last decade of evidence, there isn't a ton that says that if you want to win the Super Bowl, you have to have a high-end number one receiver. You do, though, have to control the line of scrimmage. Those are the consistent factors in these teams winning Super Bowls. Control the line of scrimmage and have a top 10 quarterback. Sam Darnold, I continue to think, maybe I'm overly optimistic for some people, but I still think he has a chance to be that, to still stand out as the best quarterback of the draft a couple of years ago.
I agree with you.
He hasn't had any help. I also think that we would be talking very differently and more positively about the Jets if they would have fired Adam Gase and hired a guy like Eric Bieniemy. Gase is the only thing that, for me, kind of dulls my enthusiasm for the Jets. Otherwise it's like, yeah, that's a team on the rise, but they happen to be in a division with the Buffalo Bills, who I really, really, really believe in.
Oh, there it is. Another fan.
I mean, I really like them. And again, now the knock on them is, well, Josh Allen is inaccurate. And I understand why head coach. Yes, my hypothesis is that there is a food chain, a trickle down in pro football. GMs condescend to the coaches condescend to the media, and the media condescends to the fans. And so coaches tell the media, like, well, what's most important in a quarterback? What you look for in a quarterback is accuracy. Why do coaches like that? Because it allows them to run what they want to do. They're egomaniacs too, these offensive coordinators. They want their system run the way they want it. Accurate guys like Breeze, Brady, Peyton, they fulfill the potential of what this offense is. They don't like off-brick guys as much. They don't like Cam Newton, Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen, guys who have cannons for arms, are, sometimes spray the ball around, but extend plays with their legs, their physical nature. Not Mike Vick take off with the ball and run away from everybody. A big physical, sling it around, can take a hit, bounce outside the pocket, make a play downfield. Yeah, they're not lethally accurate, but they make up for it in other ways. So Josh Allen, so coaches spread around to the media, Josh Allen isn't accurate. They aren't. That's why the Bills can't do it. Now the media is spread around. Josh Allen's bad. Now all fans are, Josh Allen isn't good enough to win. I say, look at Cam Newton, look at Ben Roethlisberger. They're good. Like those, as I say, if Cam Newton and Ben Roethlisberger had a baby, it would be Josh Allen. And I think the Bills fans have only just now started to see the best of what Josh Allen's going to do.
Well, the NFL Network has a lot of Bills fans over there. I can tell
At
you
this
that.
rate, every NFL Network guest you're going to call it from the NFL Network, or as Errol calls it, the Bills Network.
The Bills Network.
Because he thinks everyone's a bandwagon fan now.
Well, you know what? I'll say they deserve a break already because they shot themselves in the foot from day one. They named themselves. I mean, dig this, fellas. I don't know if you thought this through, but the city of Buffalo is named after the majestic beast that once roamed the plains. Mm-hmm. Then they get a pro football team, and they name it after the guy, Buffalo Bill Cody, who tried to extinguish all the buffalo from those majestic plains. In your own city, you name your team. Your city is named Buffalo, and you name the football team after the guy who tried to kill all the buffalo. It's weird.
I knew that. And
the 20th century, the way the 20th century went, is because of that. This is a new millennium, a new Bills. I'd like to see those people win a Super Bowl finally.
I did know that weird fact that it's one of the weirdest ones you'll ever see. Dave, you're a big Steelers guy, and they had one of the more fascinating picks of the second round in Chase Claypool, a guy that some people think will be a tight end, others will think will be a receiver. What role do you think he'll have on the Steelers?
I guess what we consider to be 21st century tight ends. I don't think hand in the ground, inline blocker, all that kind of stuff is necessarily what you're going to see a ton of. But as a complementary piece to a tight end, when they go, I'd like to see them, not to get too deep in the weeds, but I would like to see them going with the two tight end sets that they were using 3 years ago, and it was just about unstoppable. Yes, it was unstoppable because they had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if you guys heard, but things didn't go the right way, and both those guys are gone from the Steelers now. But for Roethlisberger, that was really an effective set for them. And so the thing is, Kevin Colbert has had a great track record of drafting wide receivers, pass catchers. So I trust him as far as that goes. I do think that they should have taken J.K. Dobbins when he was sitting there. If you would have told me before the draft that Dobbins would be there for Pittsburgh and they would pass on him, I would have been stunned. And to see him go to the Ravens makes me a little queasy. Again, though, I guess I'm trying to fall back on Colbert's track record of drafting receivers and having faith that he knows what he's doing there. And I think it's, to knock the pick is to exist in the vacuum that is that ignores free agency. And the likelihood is with T.J. Watt coming up and some of the other guys that Pittsburgh's definitely going to want to hold on to long term, that Juju Smith-Schuster probably, or 50-50, whatever, is not going to be with the Steelers after this season. And physically at least, feels to me like, roughly capable of filling that role that Juju has for the last couple of years.
Dave, this is my last question, and we're going to get off the NFL draft because we have a lot of callers that call this show, and silly callers. And as an analyst, as an NFL analyst, and you know a lot about football, and we're probably around the same age. How old are you, Dave?
I am 72 years young. No. I forget. No, I late 40s.
Okay, so
9 years of age.
I'm 38. So I was around when Barry Sanders dominated the game in the late 80s and really early 90s. He was the most explosive offensive player I've seen of my time in football. And some people will say Jerry Rice, and other people will say different defensive players like Ronnie Lott or whoever you want, or Taylor, whoever you want to say. But this particular fan that calls the show, and we call him the Beeve, and he's from Bayshore, he loves his Cowboys, and he loves Ezekiel Elliott. Absolutely adores this guy. And I love Zeke too. I think he's a great running back, and he's an outstanding player. Just needs to shut his mouth. But he believes, and he told me that if he played behind the same, Zeke Elliott played behind the same offensive line as the Lions in those times with Barry Sanders, he would run the ball just as well and have just as good at numbers as Barry Sanders did in that time. Do you believe that?
Zeke Elliott?
Zeke Elliott, yes. Yes.
Listen, here's what I'll say.
Go ahead, tell the truth.
I think for real. I think about Barry Sanders. I don't want to upset you. I think that Barry Sanders was great and would have been great in a lot of different situations. But things really, really went his way. Being people say, well, he didn't have a fullback and he didn't have all that. But they ran the Mouse Davis offense that was, I mean, it wasn't a completely never before seen kind of approach, but they really spread the defense out, and they would put Barry back there in that single back setup, and the field was really spread out. But what it allowed him to do was, if you go back and look, I mean, look at his halftime stats if you can dig them up.
Mm-hmm.
There are games where he's like at the half or late in the second quarter, where he's like 8 carries for 11 yards. He was a home run hitter, and that's how he would play it. I'm sure if you put him into, I don't know, if you put him on the Skins with Joe Gibbs, they said, like, that's not what we need from you, Barry. We need you to 3 yards in a cloud of dust and beat this other team into submission. He might have been able to do that, but his chief virtue was hitting the big home runs. And so he was that spread offense that Miles Davis popularized really was ideal because he would dance in the backfield and just look for the situation to snap one off. To me, in the all-time, I don't do all-time. I didn't see Red Grange or anybody else play. And by the way, football was irrelevant back then, so who cares? Until 1958, it's the greatest game ever played because it made football relevant. So then if it happened before, it doesn't matter, right? That's the logic that should apply. I apply the Super Bowl era as the modern era. And in the modern era, I would put having one, and I thought Barry Sanders was awesome. He's the all-time highlight guy, but I like Eric Dickerson and Earl Campbell better than I like Barry Sanders. If I'm drafting running backs for my team.
But would you say he's a little bit out of his mind thinking that Zeke Elliott could have run behind the same line in that time? Come on, be honest, Dave.
No, I'm with you. That's silly. No, I just had to go into my, because I have to be contentious, and I have to knock you first by saying that Barry Sanders, wow, great, one of the 4 or 5 best running backs of the Super Bowl era, is a scooch overrated when people think he's the best they've ever seen.
Well, Dave, why don't you tell all the fans how they can find you and how they can find your podcast? I know you have a podcast on the NFL Network podcast.
I do. Yeah, best bet is I do various podcasts, various places. If you go to @Dameshek on Twitter, I shamelessly promote all of it. So that's probably your best one-stop shop to go to. And next time, since you're in Long Island, we have to delve into the painful history for Pittsburgh Penguins fans against the New York Islanders. It's not a happy one for Lemieux, Crosby, and otherwise.
Well, good, because I'm an Islander fan. So there you go. So we can absolutely go back and forth. Believe it or not, my favorite player.
You're 38, and so that makes you too young to remember what happened in '82 when the Pens almost interrupted your dynasty 2 cups in, and then 11 years later, David Volek and company did interrupt our two-time Cup champion Penguins. Very painful. Now I've upset myself by talking about it. I could have gotten out of this without the emotional torment.
Well, we will get into a little bit of hockey next time, and we definitely want to get you on. If there is an NFL season, there definitely is going to be an NFL season. I believe Roger Goodell and all the execs are really trying to figure out when are they going to start and how they're going to start and if there are going to be fans in the audience. But I think there will be an NFL season, and when there is, I would love to get you back on, Dave.
Excellent. I'll look forward to it.
Thank you, Dave.